Alright, this project isn't totally done yet, but in this video I'm going to show you how to do this. So I'm going to show you how to build a wall and add veneer stone to it.
If your soil has any salt in it at all, any alkalinity, then when it gets wet it will leach up into your block and it will come out and you'll see white stripes in the stone or in the block itself. So what you do is you get this hydraulic water stop cement, and there's several brands of this and several types, but you take this stuff and you mix it up and you put it anywhere that the ground is going to get. So in this case, I'm going to pile up dirt on the back of this wall to make it look less like a silly castle and make it look like it blends in more. So because I'm going to do that, I'm going to have dirt all the way up here. And I don't want the water when it lands for snow or rain to then leach through into the block, because if it does, it'll then leach up and it'll come out and make salt lines in the stone itself. So you put this stuff in. Quikrete has a really good video on how to mix this, so I won't bother with that.
The next part we're going to do is actually put the stones onto the wall, and this is super important, the mix that you do. I tried a lot of different things like concrete adhesives, I tried lime, I tried all these different things that I've seen on YouTube, and none of them worked. 1/4 part Portland cement, 1 part type N mortar, and it's type N, not type S. If you're using real stone, you can use type S. It has a stronger adherence property, but for fake stone like I'm using, the concrete stone, type S will crack that because its adherence properties are so strong. So get type N and it'll be plenty strong. And then you'll want to use masonry sand. So it's 2 parts masonry sand, 1 part type N mortar, and 1/4 of a part Portland cement.
Alright, so the next step is you put the ingredients in a metal wheelbarrow. It's a lot easier. I tried buying the plastic things from Home Depot and all that. Just get a metal wheelbarrow and mix everything in there. So you've got type N mortar, Portland cement, and the masonry sand, and just mix it dry. And you can just use a regular garden hoe for this. They make masonry hoes, but you really don't need those. You can just use your own hoe from home. So you want to mix it up really, really good. And when you're done mixing it, then you'll add the water slowly, and I'll show that in just a second. And then, if this is about 3/4 of a bucket, 3/4 part water, you'll find if you have the right consistency, it should be pretty thick. But you see how it's kind of like pancake butter as you move your trowel through it? You seen that, Evie? It's kind of like pancake butter as you move your trowel through it. And then what it should do, the trowel test to make sure it's sticky enough, is you take it and just kind of flop it down and then turn it sideways, and it should stick to it. And if it doesn't stick, then you don't have enough type N mortar in there. It's not sticky enough. Just grab any stone that you want. I'll take this one. Make sure it's clean, and you want it dry on your stone and dry on your concrete. The reason why is when it's dry, it will actually leach the mortar mix into the stone and into the concrete, and that sucking of the dryness is what will create adherence, so you don't want to get it wet. So, like this, you flip it down, and you just go along the edge, turn it, flip it, go along the edge. With a big stone like this, you don't have to do it in the middle, you just do it around the edges. Doing it in the middle will just make your stone heavier and waste mortar. If it's too big of a stone, then you put a dollop in there, but see how I just got all the edges? And to make this interesting looking, I'm just going to put this one vertical. So you just tip it up, wiggle, 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 and it'll stick. That's all there is to it. In the case of a small stone like this, it doesn't have a lot of surface area to adhere. So one thing that you might consider is you take a grinder and just put a couple of small X's in there like that. And those X's will give the mortar a little bit more to adhere to. They'll fill in those cracks there, and it'll give it a little bit more to adhere to. So let's go over and put this on here. Pretty simple. For a small stone like this, just take it, pull it up, flip it down, and then just go along the edge, go along the edge, go along the edge, go along the edge. And that's all you really need. It's just around the edges like that. When you push it on there, it'll push into that center part, and it'll create suction by doing that. And then you just come over to your stone, to your wall, sorry, and just, you should go press, press, wiggle, 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 and then it'll adhere. Okay, so now I've got another little stone here, and I'm going to show you, if you pretended like this is one of the big heavy stones, and you've built this already onto the ground there, and you wanted to build up from it. Now this is not heavy, so I don't really need the support, but what you do is you go ahead and get the mortar on this one. You don't need tons and tons of mortar on there, because what I've found is sometimes you can make the stone too heavy by adding too much mortar on the back of it, and it doesn't stick very well. So what you do is, let's say this stone has been on there 24 hours, let's say it's really adhered, and now you've got a good anchor base to build from. What you can do is just take these little concrete pieces from when you've built other stuff, or little rocks, and put it in there so you have the right spacing. And then just take this next stone, pretending that this is a really heavy stone, let's say. Just take it and you put it on top of that and wiggle it in. Make sure to leave about a finger's worth of space between your stones, because you want to be able to mortar it, to grout it later. You just wiggle it and then it'll stick. See how that stuck? And the reason why you put that little pebble underneath there is if these are bigger, heavier stones and you're doing a circle like this, you really want it to be able to support the ones above it. And you only do a few courses of stones at a time, and then you let them all dry as you go. If you're going to use the fake stones, if you grind it, see how it will look like concrete. It doesn't look like real stone when you're using the fake stones. So if you're going to do that, make sure this edge faces away from anybody who's going to look at it, and then use your grout bed all the way up to the edge so that you don't really see it. So build up the grout inside of your cracks, and then you won't see that edge. Here, I did this one as an example. See how that's a longer stone, and because it's a really tight circle, that stone, the mortar right there on the two edges, is not touching the concrete, and that would be a huge problem later. So I'm going to go back through and add mortar to that. So if you're doing a circular wall like this, use a lot of smaller stones or cut them in half, and then make sure you get a lot of mortar in any voids. Also, if I were you, I like to use a little bubble level on these long flat stones like this, just to make sure otherwise when you get done with your wall they'll kind of look a little slipshod because some will be leaning this way or that way. So there you go, there's what the finished base looks like before you put the grout in. See a few custom cuts, and you can see these little pebbles here that I've put in which support the ones above them, and that's great because then they don't shift at all as they're drying. Now here's the mix for grout, and for grout you want to go 3 parts sand, masonry sand, 1 part type N mortar, and 1/4 of a part Portland cement, and you'll see you want it to be a lot thinner so that it runs through your grout bag a lot easier. Cool. So once you got your grout mixed up in a wheelbarrow, one thing I've learned to do is you should definitely screen it, because it'll have little rocks in it and stuff that'll just come from inside the bag or from your mix or whatever. So just take it and just get a 5-pound Humber bucket and just trowel it onto a screen, and then just kind of go like this, and you'll find that it's not uncommon to have little rocks inside of your grout mix. If those rocks get inside of your grout bag, it'll be such a pain in the rump to get them out. So just take a second and take all of your grout and put it through a screen, and then you'll have a nice clean bucket that you can fill your grout bags with. Alright, so when you're grouting, we've already grouted this, I'll just put a little bit more on, but you got your grout bag, take it and don't fill your grout bag too full, or it'll be heavy and it'll be hard on your wrist and it's hard to twist and stuff. Do it just like cake icing, cake frosting. I've already used about half of this, but take it, twist it, and then you can just twist it to push more out. So we'll put a little bit more grout on here. So just twist it, and I'm twisting with my back hand, squeezing a little bit with my front hand. And that's how you put grout in. When you do grout, make sure you push it all the way back to the back. You don't want any air pockets behind your grout. So this grout's been drying for a while on here, and the time that you let it cure really depends on how hot it is and humidity and things like that. But wait until it's pretty dry, and then you'll do what they call tuck pointing, where you just take something like this, or you can take a stick, or whatever.
Let me video what you got.
So something like this.
It's a
tuck pointing tool. You can get a masonry thing, and just take it and just push the grout into the cracks as much as you can. Just push it in there. That's a little bit too wet right there, that part I'm doing. But you want to wait till it's kind of dry to the touch, kind of solid. Otherwise, it'll flake out. And just take it. This part's right here is too wet too, actually. Let's do this part right here. This part right here is good. So it should kind of crumble out a little bit when you do it. And just take it and push it in. And then you can also use your glove for little cracks and things. And just take it and push it all in there. You can get off any excess and stuff. And that's tuck pointing. The reason you do that is you want to get your grout all pushed in as much as you can into any of these cracks. You don't want to have air pockets behind your grout at all. Alright, so now after you've tuck pointed, let it dry a little bit more, and again it's going to depend on where you're at, but get it to where it's kind of solid. And you can see how this is really grainy looking right here.
Hold on.
It's real grainy and unsmooth. When you brush, so back up. And
I'm getting the grainy.
When you brush, just get a brush like this. Now if you are doing this in the heat, you want to get a wire brush because your grout can dry pretty fast, and then this won't work. You'll need a wire brush. But in normal weather where it's not too hot, after you've let your grout dry a little bit, you can just go over it with a wire brush. And what that does is all of the dust and microparticles will fill in the rough spots, and it'll make your grout look really smooth and nice. So look at the difference between this grout here and that grout. This is not brushed and this is brushed. It makes a big difference. And this is what will ultimately make your project look finished or not finished. So our project is coming together pretty good. Getting closer. Put in a bunch of fill dirt to the right of it. Brought in the spruce trees and all the mulch. Built that wall. Built the fire pit. It's almost done.
put in the flagstone path, put in all the river bottom rock. So to finish up